And I'm going to start reading at line 553. This is telling us about the stages of the yoga of King Asvapati. The first major stage of his yoga is the yoga of the soul's release. And we are reading how that comes about for him. We've been reading about a variety of subtle experiences that he's receiving. And we'll continue with that. So page 37, just a little beyond the middle of the page. The previous line speaks about how all kinds of wonderful experiences came down like rain from the all-powerful mystery above. And then it says, thence, from there, from that all-powerful mystery above, stooped the eagles of omniscience. A dense veil was rent, a mighty whisper heard, repeated in the privacy of his soul, a wisdom cry from rapt transcendences sang on the mountains of an unseen world. The voices that an inner listening hears conveyed to him their prophet utterances, and flame-wrapped outbursts of the immortal word and flashes of an occult revealing light approached him from the unreachable secrecy. An inspired knowledge sat enthroned within, whose seconds illumined more than reason's years. An ictus of revealing luster fell, as if a pointing accent upon truth. And like a sky flare showing all the ground, a swift, intuitive discernment shone. One glance could separate the true and false, or raise its rapid torch fire in the dark to check the claimants crowding through mind's gates, covered by the forged signatures of the gods. Detect the magic bride in her disguise, or scan the apparent face of thought and life. Which side are we to start today? We can start with Bhavana. Yes?
Thence stood the eagles of omniscience. A dense veil was rent, a mighty whisper heard, repeated in the privacy of his soul, a wisdom cry from rapt transcendences, sang on the mountains of an unseen world. The voices that an inner listening hears convey to him their prophet utterances, and flame-wrapped outbursts of the immortal world. and flashes of an occult revealing light approached him from the unreachable secrecy.
Yes. So thence stooped the eagles of omniscience. Eagles are powerful birds, birds of prey. They are also believed in the tradition that they are the highest flying of the birds and that they have the clearest vision. From great heights, they can see their prey on the ground. And it's also said that they can look directly into the sun without being dazzled. So it's a symbolic bird with great powers of flight, being able to reach very high, and of vision. So Sri Aurobindo takes these eagles, these birds, as expressions of omniscience, of all knowledge. So to Aswapati, these eagles of omniscience, they come stooping. It's the technical word that is used for birds of prey when they are swooping down to catch their prey. It's called in the stoop. They come down. They close their wings and put their heads and their beaks down, and they plummet down at tremendous speed. So these eagles of omniscience are coming down into Aswapati's consciousness powerfully. And as a result of that descent, a dense veil was rent. Rent means torn. There's been a covering, a thick, heavy covering, a dense covering, but that gets torn by this stooping of those eagles. And Aswapati hears a mighty whisper. It's a very soft, quiet voice, but it's full of power. And with that power of subtle hearing, he hears a wisdom cry that comes from rapt transcendences, from states of consciousness beyond the limits of our universe, in the realm of infinity and eternity. Rapt, those transcendences are in a state of rapture, a trance of bliss. And from there, this wisdom cry comes to Aswapati. He hears it as if it is being sung on the mountains, on the highest peaks of some unseen world. And that wisdom cry gets repeated in the privacy of his soul. It's as if a mantra has come to him. In addition to that, the voices, there are many different voices that an inner listening hears, not our physical voices, but the voices of the subtle worlds. They communicate to Aswapati their prophet utterances. They have things to say that tell about the future. And other voices come to him. Flame-wrapped outbursts of the immortal word. When Sri Aurobindo uses word with a capital W, it is the creative word, the original word of creation. So, outbursts of that creative speech come to him, and it's as if they are wrapped in flame, full of intensity, energy, power. And then there's a light that comes, an occult, a hidden light, but it's a light that has the power of revealing things. Flashes of that occult, revealing light approached him, came near to him from that unreachable secrecy, that all-powerful mystery above. Yes.
Coming to the word prophet, I am wondering what Muhammad said about the future. Wondering why is he called a prophet, basically?
Well, it's just that suggestion that a prophet is a person who can look into the future and tell you what is going to happen, what hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, but he didn't say anything about that as far as I know.
Who?
Muhammad, who is the founder of Islam.
Why would Muhammad come in here?
No, because prophet, he's known as Muhammad the prophet.
Yeah, but he's not the only prophet. There have been so many prophets.
Yeah,
there's all the prophets in the Bible, and there's even today there are prophets. There are people who, with their subtle sight, they can look into the future, no? Including Sri Aurobindo and the mother, no? In the late, or in the very early 1920s, Sri Aurobindo saw that India is going to be free.
There are adjectives to each great man, and prophet was known as the Muhammad was known as
I think you're restricting the use of the word
no,
too much.
I know the word.
Really?
Prophet,
what he wants to suggest is that these utterances which are coming to Aswapati, they speak about the future.
Yes.
They're not connected with any religious predictions or commands or anything like that.
I think his good point is that Muhammad
is
called prophet, but he never talk about the future.
That's what
his question is why is
well, you will have to ask some Islamic scholar. I don't know anything about that. I only know about the English language.
Yes.
That's what I'm doing here.
Yeah. And coming to English, stupi is also bending down, basically. Men bend down to pick up something.
Yes, we can stoop. So that has that meaning. And the other day, on Sunday, we were reading the same passage, and somebody came to me at the end with their little tablet and their dictionary there, and she said, I think you were talking about swoop. And I said, no, I'm not talking about swoop. You go a little bit further in your dictionary until you come to stoop. So there are different meanings of the word stoop. But the one which Sri Aurobindo, he uses both meanings in the poem. But you notice that he very often uses it in connection with something descending very, very rapidly from above, like a bird of prey. I saw on the television the other day, there's quite a small bird of prey called the peregrine falcon. And they say that they think that's the fastest living being. From high up, it folds its little wings and it puts its head down and it stoops and it reaches 200 miles an hour. Imagine that little bird.
Faster than the eagle? Faster than the eagle?
Well, they say he's the fastest. Perhaps it takes longer for an eagle because he's bigger, his wings are bigger, there's more air resistance. I don't know, but that's what they said. And what he's doing is he's stooping. He's coming down on the hunt to catch his prey. So next sentence, Martin, please.
An inspired knowledge sat enthroned within, whose seconds illumined more than reason's years. An ictus of revealing lustre fell, as if a pointing accent upon truth, and like a sky flare showing all the ground, a swift, intuitive discernment shone.
Yes. So here there are two aspects perhaps of the same thing. That King Asvapati becomes aware that within him there's enthroned an inspired knowledge. He has it within him. And the power of that knowledge is that just in a second it can give more light, more knowledge than years and years and years of careful thinking and reasoning. And it happens, he says, like an ictus of revealing luster. This word ictus, it's a Greek word, and they used it in their poetry to mean a sign that indicated that the syllable in the word must be stressed. And it's a little pointing sign, like a triangle pointing downwards. So something like that, a shining light points downwards and presses on something, as if a pointing accent upon truth. It's saying, look, see this truth. That light comes to him. And in addition to that, there's something like a sky flare, a rocket going up in the dark and illumining all the ground. And that, Sri Aurobindo says, is a power of discernment. The Sanskrit word is viveka, I think. It means being able to distinguish correctly the values of things. So it can reveal the truths, and that's developed in the next sentence, Subhu.
One lamp which separates the truth and false, or raise its rapid torch fire in the dark, to check the claimants crowding through mind's gates, covered by the forged signature of the god, dictate the magic bride in her disguise, or scan the apparent face of thought and light.
Yes. So this is what discernment can do. Just in one glance, it can see the difference between the true and the false. And another thing that it can do is it's like lifting up a torch in the dark. It can see, it can check all the different thoughts coming into the mind, the claimants crowding through mind's gates. Some of them are pretending to bring truths or knowledge. And they've got forged passports with the signatures of the gods on. But that discernment can immediately see that these are forgeries, which are the true thoughts and which are not. And the other thing which discernment can do is to detect the magic bride in her disguise. It's like in a fairy story, that the princess knocks at the doors of the castle and she's in rags like a beggar girl. And nobody could imagine that she's a princess. But that eye of discernment can immediately see that this is the destined bride for our prince, a magic bride in her disguise. That's the quality of discernment, that it can see what is hidden. It can scan the apparent face of thought and life. Things look so convincing, sound so convincing. The discernment can show you what is really true and what is really false. It's a very, very important quality if we are wishing to practice yoga or even to progress in life, to have the quality of discernment.
But Shraddhavan, I tell something, discernment not coming in the beginning of yoga.
No.
It's a process.
It comes later, yes.
Through some
And
experience.
in the Vedas, it came as the gift of a goddess. I think this is the goddess Dakshina, who gives discernment. So there are other goddesses who bring other helpful qualities. And as you say, it doesn't come at the very beginning of the yoga. It's something that develops as you become closer to the mother, then she gives these gifts.
The second last line, it means you can see beauty, hidden beauties also, like hidden bride.
The magic bride is usually the soul. Also in the fairy stories, when it's the princess, it's a symbol of the soul. So another of those gifts that comes from the goddesses in the Vedas is inspiration. Here, that's what we will read about next. Mihong, would you read?
Oft inspiration is her lightning feet, a sudden messenger from the all-seeing past, traversed the soundless corridors of his mind, bring her rhythmic sense of hidden things.
Yes. All this next section is about the action of the goddess of inspiration. So it says, often she comes with her lightning feet. She comes so quickly and she brings light. No? A sudden messenger. It comes suddenly, and it comes from those highest levels where everything is seen, those levels of omniscience. And with her lightning feet, she passes through the soundless corridors of his mind. His mind has become absolutely silent and receptive. Otherwise, inspiration wouldn't come like that. No? And she brings with her her rhythmic sense of hidden things. Hidden knowledge, hidden movements, possibilities, they get expressed in a rhythmic way, whether it is through speech, through poetry, through music, even in painting, and in other ways too. Different rhythmic vibrations. Inspiration expresses herself.
Painting is also rhythmic.
What?
Painting.
Many artists, you can look, you can see that there's a kind of rhythmic harmony in their work. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure they must feel something like that, you know.
I'm painting in Paris, but when I come there,
Janaka. And music.
Music is thought to shape in mortal speech, as if from a golden fire of the old beats, a joy of light, a joy of sadness,
Sight.
a rapture of the living undying world poured into his heart as into an empty cup, a repetition of God's first delight, created in a young and virgin time.
Yes. So I think this line about the music connects with the rhythmic sense of hidden things. There's a music that is so full of meaning. It goes beyond anything that we can put into our human words. And then it's as if from a beautiful little bottle. But a bottle is a very ordinary word. A phial, it means it's made of something precious. And it's small. This one is golden. And what it contains is the all bliss, the universal Ananda. So as if just little one drop from that phial comes into his heart, it brings a joy of light, a joy of sudden sight, a rapture, an intense delight of the thrilled, undying word, as if he hears some expression of that supreme word of creation. It pours into his heart as into an empty cup. So it's not only his mind has become silent and empty, the heart also. And that little drop from that golden phial, it brings a feeling, a rapture. That's, he says, a repetition of God's first delight, the delight that God felt when he first created this universe, the delight of the Creator, creating in a young and virgin time, at the very beginning, when everything was youthful and pure and perfect. The delight that the Lord felt then. It's as if one golden drop of that rapture falls into Asvapati's heart. Joel.
A brief moment got a little space, all knowledge packed into great wordless thoughts, lodged in the expectant stillness of his depths, a crystal of the ultimate absolute, a portion of the inexpressible truth, revealed by silence to the silent soul.
So this is another experience that inspiration brings to him. Just in a moment, a brief moment, a little space, all knowledge is packed into great wordless thoughts, thoughts that are not expressed in words. It lodges, it places firmly in the expectant stillness of his depths, in the deeper parts of his consciousness, which are also still and empty and waiting to receive it. She puts there a crystal. It may be only a small crystal, but something beautiful and translucent and pure, a crystal of the ultimate absolute, of the supreme, a portion, just a little bit of all that vast, inexpressible truth is revealed by silence to the silent soul. This wonderful crystal of knowledge, of truth, gets put into his soul. Will you read?
The intense creative scene was stillness tone. Her power fell speechless grew more intimate. She looked upon the scene and the anchor saint, and gazed dominance she made her in native faith.
Yes, so the intense creatrix, this is the goddess of inspiration. Creatrix, this is the feminine form of creator. You could say creatress also, no? It's a feminine form. So she's a goddess. This intense creatrix, she has so much power. She worked. This word wrought has to do with working metal. Iron, we have wrought iron. It's iron that's been hammered into shape, not poured into a mold, but really hammered into shape. So she's working strongly in Asvapati's stillness, in the stillness of his being. And now she's not speaking to him in words. Her power, fallen speechless, grew more intimate. She's just working in him deeply, in a very familiar way. In him, in his consciousness, she looked upon the seen and the unforeseen, the unexpected, the things that have not been foreseen yet. And she made unguessed domains, whole realms of existence that he had never dreamed of. No? She made her native field, she made herself at home there and brought all that knowledge to him. Mohri?
All vision gathered into a single ray, as when the eyes stare at an invisible point, till through the intensity of one luminous spot, an apocalypse of a world of images, enter into the kingdom of the seer.
Yes. So this is a yogic discipline and experience now, concentrating the vision into a single ray. Sri Aurobindo says it's like when in yoga the eyes stare at an invisible point, an imaginary point somewhere here, until through the intensity of one luminous spot, the concentration is so great, and that little luminous spot suddenly reveals an apocalypse of a world of images into the kingdom of the seer. Apocalypse also means a revelation, a very complex and complete revelation. So many, many images, just through that concentration on one invisible spot at first, an invisible point. The concentration gets so intense until it breaks through into a realm of images, a world of images. And then again, the action of the goddess of inspiration. You will read, sir? Yes.
A great new arm of splendor suddenly rose. It rent the god and the god's opaque of messians. Her lifted fingers keen unthinkable pitch. Barbed with the stab of flame that closed beyond.
Yes. So this also is an action of this goddess of inspiration. It's as if she's pointing at something, a great nude arm of splendor, golden arm. Suddenly he sees it, and it tears apart this opaque veil. Gauze is a very fine kind of material, almost transparent, no? The opaque gauze of nescience, which doesn't allow knowledge to pass through. She tears that apart. Her lifted fingers, keen, unthinkable tip. We can't imagine the tip of her finger and how powerful it is. It's as if it can throw a stab of flame that reveals the closed beyond the veil of nescience. She just opens up a whole new field of knowledge. Naren?
And I awake in voiceless heights of trance, a mind plucking at the unimaginable, overleaping with the soul and perilous bound, the high black wall hiding superconscious. She broke in with inspired speech of the scythe.
For scythe.
Speech for scythe, and plundered the unknowable's vast estate.
A scythe is a special tool that farmers use for cutting grain. It has a long handle and a big sharp blade, and they can cut, they can harvest a lot of grain. Death carries a scythe to cut us down and carry us away, yes. So what is she doing? She is like an eye, always awake, on a very high level, in voiceless heights of trance. But she's also like a mind, plucking at the unimaginable. We pluck flowers, no? Or we try to. And another thing that she does is that she leaps over one single dangerous leap. She leaps over the high black wall which is separating us from the superconscious. Like a robber, she leaps over the wall, she breaks in, and she's using for her scythe to harvest, she uses inspired speech. She plunders the unknowable's vast estate. From that estate of the unknowable, walled in by this high black wall, she leaps over and collects, harvests secrets to share with Asvapati.
This material of superconscious. She leaps into the estate of superconscious.
Yeah, he says the unknowable's vast estate.
So here the sign, that word is used as a verb.
Sorry?
As this sign, the word is used as a verb. Because
Which word?
sign.
Scythe. No. The scythe is the tool that you use. She's using speech. She's using inspired speech to collect, as a scythe, to collect all these secrets of the unknowable. She expresses them in speech that Aswapati can understand. And the image continues, Ganga Lakshmi.
A gleaner of infinitesimal grains of truth, a sheath binder of
a sheath binder.
Sheath binder of infinite experience. She pierces the ground mysteries of the world force, and her magic methods wrapped in thousand veils. Or she gathers the lost secret drop by time in the dust and crannies of his mountain road, mid all forsaken dream of hastening mind, and burn remnants of forgetting space.
So she's harvesting. When you are harvesting, you can't harvest every single grain. So behind the main harvesters, there go gleaners. In the Bible, it shows that it was allowed. You know, they were the landowners, and they employed laborers to do their harvesting. But then when the harvester had passed through, the widows and the fatherless, the widows and orphans, they could go through the field and pick up all the fallen grains. So that's gleaning. She's a gleaner. She doesn't let any little grain get lost. No? She's a gleaner of infinitesimal, extremely tiny grains of truth. She collects them all. She's also a sheaf binder. When the harvesters cut down the grain, people go behind them and gather the stalks into sheaves so they can be taken to the threshing floor. So she's doing that. She's gathering together the sheaves, a sheaf binder of infinite experience. And she's also piercing, drilling through into the guarded, the protected mysteries of world force, of nature. And the magic methods of the world force. How does nature do her work? She has so many secrets, no? But inspiration can penetrate to all those magic methods, even though they're wrapped up in 1,000 veils. And another thing that she can do is that she gathers the lost secrets dropped by time. There are secrets that have been known and they've got forgotten. In time, it's as if they've been dropped in the dust and crannies as time goes on, moving forward and forward. In the road, there are cracks and there's dust lying, and those lost secrets just lie there and are forgotten. They lie there amongst old, forsaken dreams of hastening mind that's always moving forward in a hurry, and buried remnants of forgotten space. There are even places, times that have been totally forgotten about, but inspiration can rediscover them. A remnant is something that's left. When you make a dress, the tailor will give you back the remnants, the bits of cloth that he didn't use. Or in the market sometimes you can go in the street, they will sell end bits of cloth, remnants. And then you might make a blouse or a scarf or something out of them. So it's something that's left over, something that's left. So these are traces of spaces that have existed, that have been important, completely forgotten about. Inspiration can rediscover those and point them out to Asvapati. We've said before that these descriptions here, they reflect experiences that Sri Aurobindo himself had. And in the record of yoga, we can find some experiences like this, revelations that he received about things that had happened in times and places that we know nothing about nowadays. The lost secrets dropped by time amid old, forgotten, and buried remnants of forgotten space. So we'll stop there for today. This description of the action of inspiration continues almost to the end of the canto. So those who want to stay and read. Thence stooped the eagles of omniscience. A dense veil was rent, a mighty whisper heard, repeated in the privacy of his soul, a wisdom cry from rapt transcendences sang on the mountains of an unseen world. The voices that an inner listening hears conveyed to him their prophet utterances, and flame-wrapped outbursts of the immortal word, and flashes of an occult revealing light approached him from the unreachable secrecy. An inspired knowledge sat enthroned within, whose seconds illumined more than reason's years. An ictus of revealing lustre fell, as if a pointing accent upon truth, and like a sky flare showing all the ground, a swift, intuitive discernment shone. One glance could separate the true and false, or raise its rapid torch fire in the dark to check the claimants crowding through mind's gates, covered by the forged signatures of the gods. Detect the magic bride in her disguise, or scan the apparent face of thought and life. Oft inspiration with her lightning feet, a sudden messenger from the all-seeing tops, traversed the soundless corridors of his mind, bringing her rhythmic sense of hidden things. A music spoke, transcending mortal speech, as if from a golden phial of the all bliss, a joy of light a joy of sudden sight, a rapture of the thrilled undying word, poured into his heart as into an empty cup, a repetition of God's first delight, creating in a young and virgin time. In a brief moment caught, a little space, all knowledge packed into great wordless thoughts, lodged in the expectant stillness of his depths, a crystal of the ultimate absolute, a portion of the inexpressible truth, revealed by silence to the silent soul. The intense creatrix in his stillness wrought. Her power, fallen speechless, grew more intimate. She looked upon the seen and the unforeseen, unguessed domains she made her native field. All vision gathered into a single ray, as when the eyes stare at an invisible point, till through the intensity of one luminous spot, an apocalypse of a world of images enters into the kingdom of the seer. A great nude arm of splendor suddenly rose. It rent the gauze opaque of nescience. Her lifted fingers, keen, unthinkable tip, bared with a stab of flame the closed beyond. An eye awake in voiceless heights of trance, a mind plucking at the unimaginable, overleaping with a soul and perilous bound the high black wall, hiding superconscience. She broke in with inspired speech for scythe and plundered the unknowable's vast estate. A gleaner of infinitesimal grains of truth, a sheaf binder of infinite experience, she pierced the guarded mysteries of world force, and her magic methods wrapped in 1,000 veils. Or she gathered the lost secrets dropped by time in the dust and crannies of his mounting root, mid old forsaken dreams of hastening mind, and buried remnants of forgotten space.